Welcome back to the couch, guys. This is our MMA, UFC, fighting, whatever you want to call it, aggressive, violence. This is the segment of the couch where we talk about the UFC, arguably the best sport in the world right now. To my right, we've got Sui. He's off the camera today because we have a special guest, and the guest is Mr. Luca.
Go.
Welcome aboard, mate. Welcome aboard.
Thank you for joining me. Thanks for having me, boys.
Yeah, usually you're the one saying thank you for joining me.
I know. They just went into autopilot there.
So for everyone who doesn't know, Luca's got his own podcast where he actually interviews MMA fighters. At Luca's podcast, link and everything will be in the description. Go check out his channel. He does a lot more than MMA fighters. You interview, people from all walks of life.
Yeah, I think so.
Former fat cunts, political minds.
Yeah, look, anyone I find interesting.
Yeah.
Anyone I find interesting. But the soul of it's MMA. Yeah. It's always going to go back to MMA. I'll branch out here. I'll touch politics. I'll touch, inspirational stories. But then I have to have a fight on every once in a while. Yeah. Just itch for it,
Yeah. So what's the the desire for fighting? Where does that?
I think I was just a pussy growing up, man. I think I was just one of those guys that never threw a punch in their life and never had, anything to express myself in that way. I played football and, I've always been around sports, but I think once I discovered MMA and I fell in love with the UFC, I imagine it's very similar for you guys. It's just like, this is the greatest sport ever. We're just going to put a bunch of people in a cage and see what happens. That's wild.
Like I was saying, I think I said this to someone, I can't remember what I was saying this to, but I was like, UFC is just our version of gladiator wars. Remember back in the Roman times, the Greek times, instead of entertainment was let's put people into a big arena and let them go kill themselves. Obviously, we can't do that now anymore. The UFC is the closest we get to that, and we feel okay with it because it's it's controlled violence. Loosely.
It's a lot safer than boxing. I'll always say that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot more rules, a lot more regulations, and when you get hit in the head too many times, the referee will stop the fight. He won't count to 7 and let you back up. And
if you do that, you
can you imagine if Perreira got up and went like this?
Well, he's so crazy, he probably would as well.
He would, yeah.
He totally would.
So I didn't lose.
If you give Perreira a 10 count against Izzy, we're coming off the back of the Izzy Perreira 2 fight, which I think is important for the audience to understand, which was probably, I don't know what it was like for you guys, but for me, it was one of the greatest UFC fights in history.
100%. I said that too. Probably the greatest MMA moment ever.
Yeah.
Up there with for me, when you say greatest MMA moment, I think Aljo and McGregor, I think Khabib and McGregor, and now I think Adesanya and Perreira too.
You know what I love about that? Every single moment that you've picked for yourself, McGregor is in a lot of them, and rightly so because he elevated the sport.
Yeah.
Love or hate him, whatever you think about McGregor, he elevated it to more than just the people who knew about the sport or who were in the sport to just general audience. They're like, I want to gravitate towards this guy.
Mate, I'm sure most of us weren't that into the UFC until the McGregor era. Yeah.
I was a very big Nate Diaz fan.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Nate Diaz was my guy.
How'd you feel over those two fights?
I think the trilogy has to be completed.
Yep.
So Nate Diaz, McGregor 3 has to happen. I think it will happen. Dana's a smart guy. He's got himself into the position he's in because he understands that audiences want storylines. They don't care about statistics. They don't care about
rankings.
They don't care about rankings.
Apart from us.
Yeah, no, we care about it because we follow the sport, right? But let's take for example, Volkanovski's last fight. It was pitched as pound for pound number 1 versus pound for pound number 2, and the buzz just wasn't there. For us, it was there because we're in Australia and we're rooting for Volkanovski. Yeah. But as an international staple, as the pedigree of fighters that we're talking about, it didn't have the same traction as something like Slap Championship has, which is apparently with promoting a lot more. to have a good fight, you have to have a storyline. And I say this to every fighter that comes on my show. It's like, you've got two skill sets that you have to focus on. Firstly, your technical skills. You have to be a good fighter. You have to know how to cover. Have to know how to slip. But at the same time, you need good communication skills. And no one's better than that than Conor McGregor, Chael Sonnen, even Nate Diaz, even though he can't complete a sentence. Like, you watch the guy
engaged.
And you're like, for sure. For sure.
Jorge Masvidal is also one of those fighters who had a talent for capturing the audience. And if you don't know, now you know, he's announced his retirement from the sport. For me, arguably, I think he's the most gangster fighter we've ever had in the UFC. I don't know how you boys feel, and I'll get to that in a second, but I think...
Fraud fighter. Fraud fighter. Kimbo Slice done
Security! Security!
Can we get this guy out of here, man? Who is he? He just lives here?
Bro, it's Ramadan. You're supposed to be off the drinks, man. Come on. Hey. Ramadan Mubarak, by the way. Ramadan Mubarak.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Happy Easter to you as well, both.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
So Masvidal has announced retirement. Look, for me, I think he's a gangster because you cannot accuse him of steroids, number one, because he's got the dad bod. He cuts like 4 or 5 pounds to fight. He's a brawler. His background, he's been fighting, in the UFC for 20 years, but he's been fighting for pretty much his whole life. So he's the embodiment of the fight game. That's why they call him game bred. And I have so much respect for guys like that, and the path that he paved for the people to come after him. I think he's done a lot for the sport. You can hate him; he's a Gronk. You can call him whatever you want, but I still think that he deserves a lot of respect, and he's one of the OGs of the sport, up there with Nate Diaz.
100%. And I mean, look, Street Jesus, bro. He was in Bellator 1. Bellator 1. You have to keep that in mind, bro. We're up to Bellator like 200
something, yeah.
Dude, and even in Bellator 1, it was like his 20th fight. He's been around the block for a minute. He's had so many fights, and to send him off in the way that he was able to be sent off, and unfortunately he didn't get the result on the night, but you can't deny the fact that Jorge Masvidal's career is just defined by crazy moments and crazy stories and crazy fights, and he changed the game.
He changed the game, man. And his last 4 fights, interesting stat, he got sent off. He ended his career fighting the best. He fought Kamaru Usman twice. He fought Nate Diaz. He fought Colby Covington. He fought Burns. He fought the top people in his division on his way out. If that's not a legend, I don't know what is. And 38 years old, 20 years in the game, man, he's earned it. He's earned the rest. He's earned the break.
Question, just I guess, talk about Masvidal. What's your favorite Masvidal moment?
Oh, everyone knows. Look,
Come on.
other than
Mine's
the knee,
different. That's why I'm asking.
apart from the knee, him knocking out Darren Till.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah,
I think because of where it was, the 0-2, the crowd was up for
he
it.
came back.
It was big underdog. People were like, look, bro, it's probably about time. I don't think you're gonna cut the cheese in this division, and then just whoosh.
It destroyed an upcomer. I also like the one where he got put in a standing triangle and choked out. That's up there for me. That was a really good submission.
When I think Jorge Masvidal, I think flying knee Ben Askren. That's it. There's no better moment. It's not only is it the best moment in his career, it's the best moment in the UFC.
Yeah.
There is no better knockout.
Best moment in Ben Askren's career too.
Oh wow! Snooze first.
Come on, bro. He fought Jake Paul, man. Yeah. Come on.
Anyway, that's a different. That's a different. You want to talk about boxing and how fake it is? And then we had the pleasure of watching Israel Adesanya bury a big demon in his past. What? And my man TK, I'm gonna let you take the floor, man. This is yours. So,
Hello. If you don't know, Alex versus Easy Part 1, I was called a... What are the people? Clueless? A casual?
I'll pop it up.
I was told I don't know what I'm talking about because I called Perreira a fraud. And the reason I called him a fraud is because I said he had an easier run to the title and he won't be able to defend that belt. Lo and behold, 3 months later, we're standing with the rightful champion sitting at his throne. Remember that. And for everyone that's going to say it's 1-3, in combat sports, it's 1-3, but it's 1-1 in UFC. It's 1-1. It's 1-1 in UFC. Just remember that. Mate, the guy did this after he knocked you out in front of your son. If that doesn't make you come fight for a third fight, I don't know what
The guy shot 3 hours into your chest, went and taunted your son, hit the Millie Rock, and then hit another dance, and you were still asleep.
If you think Costa had it bad when he copped the whole teabag thing, I'm sorry, that's pretty much up there as well. So I'm happy to see that fight, man. Yeah, I've got nothing to really say about the fight because I'm just too excited by the fact that for me, Izzy has a special place in my heart as a fighter. I like the theatrics that he brings in. Like when he did the Dead Man Walking entrance, was that against Kennedy?
Yep.
And he walked out with the urn, the whole thing. Like it's these things, like what Lucas said. To be a fighter, you need to have a story. And I think it's funny enough that like when he said that, I was just thinking about how the UFC signed a contract with the WWE. And we know how we say WWE scripted, it's fake. But one thing the WWE, if you watched it growing up as a kid, the reason you used to watch and really get into it is that creative department, their ability to write a story, whether it be far-fetched, it's believable, it's real. Like, it's so... I feel like I get that with Izzy. When I watch him fight, I feel like he takes me on a journey where I'm like, I'm here with you. I've seen the rain. I want to stand by you and like watch you go into the next fight. And that's why I think the blip in the whole Perreira story, I think in hindsight, it was probably required. It was necessary. And I think the one thing I was very critical of Izzy about, I felt like he was fighting comfortable when he had the belt. It was more so a fighting style of, I've got the belt. I'll do what I need to do to retain the belt. But I didn't feel like he was pushing or challenging himself any further than he had to because he had the belt.
Longevity.
Yeah, longevity.
Yeah.
And it sucks because in UFC, you understand why fighters need to fight the long game as well. But I wanted Izzy to be the Izzy that was up and coming, that had the fast-track run to the title, that was 11-0 when he got to that fight, and we went and fought Rob Whittaker, and we were all like, I think Rob's going to be big trouble for this man, only to go knock Rob out in the second, and then they fought again, and then he beat. Like, it's just, I don't know, man.
Can I push that back on that a little bit, though?
Yeah, of course, go ahead.
Listen, I agree with what you're saying in that, you know, once he had the title, it was a very different Izzy that we saw. It was very much more composed and calculated. But we've always said that to be the champion, you have to beat the champion.
Yep.
And no one's been more active. No one's had more title defenses than Izzy. Like, he's up there in the top
I think it's
five
like
for
10
sure.
fights in the last 4 years or 3 years.
Crazy.
Izzy
Crazy
and
numbers.
Izzy and Volk, the activity from
Like,
both of them.
crazy numbers.
Yeah.
The guy's gone and sought fights, and we're not talking like just bums. We're talking top contenders,
Giving
top
people
guys,
shots.
and he's giving them shots. He's constantly there. He's constantly in the line. The reason we're talking about him is because he's been so active.
And his activity, like you said, it's been crazy. I don't think have you ever seen a champion so active in this?
I think GSP. I think
yeah.
GSP is definitely. I think he's either number 1 or number 2. I think Kamaru Usman's number 1.
Volk's coming for that as well.
Yeah, but Volk's coming off a loss. So do you count that? Is the question, because you have to go by division. Then.
Izzy also did the whole jump up,
and come back
lose,
down.
True,
come back
that's
down,
true.
keep defending.
I think just in the division, I think Izzy's got to have a massive shout in that.
Yeah.
Just from an activity. And I think last UFC episode we did was after Edwards beat Usman. And one of the things I was saying I was not happy about Kobe getting a shot about, I was like, I don't like Kobe's inactivity. And I said, whether you love or hate Izzy, the one thing you got to respect about the man is he doesn't care who you are, where you're from. And a big part of why Alex got his title fight, I feel like, was because Izzy gave him that platform. I know the UFC was starting to create that story to say, we've got this big upcoming guy. But if Rob Whittaker was the champion, let's say, I don't think would have seen Alex fight for the title so soon into his UFC
But
career.
I don't think Alex would have taken that fight anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Like,
his
let's
whole
be
reason
real.
for coming back was
Let's be real. You put Alex against Rob Whittaker. Rob Whittaker wins any way he wants. Alex is a very one-dimensional fighter. He's a kickboxer. He's a kickboxer through and through. And my prediction for this fight and going into it was that, you know, Izzy, contrary to like everything that he's done in his past, is going to be looking for takedowns. He's going to be looking
That's
to win
what
the
we all
wrestling.
expected.
I said the same thing.
I
said the same
honestly
thing.
thought, like, Izzy, all he has to do is get a half decent wrestling game going, get some good wrestlers over there at City Kickboxing, and he beats Perreira.
I was
But he
surprised
chose
stood
to
up.
stand.
I was
He chose
surprised.
to stand and bang.
He
He
cho-
chose to stand and bang.
They're both kickboxers at heart, and that's what we got. We got a kickboxing match.
Well, that
and
shows the character of the man to go, you've put me out before or TKO'd me before. Yeah, I'm going to stand in front of you and I want to fight you at what you're best at. It's almost like I need to beat you in your best domain. I don't think for Izzy, maybe from an ego perspective, he would have been comfortable winning that fight from a wrestling, if that makes sense. Do you
And-
know? Do you know
and
where I'm trying to go with that?
Shout out Spanian because he actually put up a video the day before the fight and said the only way Izzy can redeem himself is by knocking this man out. Can't submit him, can't get a decision win because it doesn't close that chapter in your life. You got to put him to sleep. That's how you close this chapter.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. He knew that.
That's what I mean. Like, he could have just been about the whole, I want my title back,
Yeah.
and gone about it strategically. But from his ego, there's no way he would have been able to sleep if he didn't get the outcome.
How angry did he look during that fight too? Like the look on his face, the anger. Like his face when he was unloading on him and hitting him, like you could see in Izzy's face, like just this, like just look of like you know when your older brother or your older sibling or older cousin hits you and you're trying to hit him back, you're like. That was Izzy's face the whole fight, and then the whole celebration, the 3 arrows, just everything.
Can
that was
can I keep it real with you though?
Yeah.
And I think it's easy to write off Perreira because he has just been knocked out, so we're riding off that momentum.
Yeah.
But let's keep it real with the fight. Let's keep it a fucking buck. Perreira was winning that fight. That first round, it's a close call.
10-9.
But I give the edge to Perreira in that first round. I think the calf kick was very effective. I think he was
checking them.
he wasn't checking them. I think, Izzy wasn't expecting Perreira to be so patient with his game. He's expecting Perreira to kind of come out and try and finish it early, like we saw in the first fight. And I think what you really saw was that Perreira was being more accurate. He was striking more. Just statistically speaking, Perreira was winning that fight. And even in the second round, Perreira had Izzy up against the cage. And you don't want to be there with Perreira. Of all people to be up against the cage with, Perreira is probably the last person on my fucking list.
Ngannou's up there.
Oh, yeah. But it's not in the UFC anymore, so I'll get you. Ask Jorginho.
Yeah, it's probably Ngannou, Nate Diaz, and then Perreira. Between the three of them, you don't want to be in that position with anyone. And is he really? I don't know if he just was waiting and if he was just measuring himself or what the strategy was there. But he really kind of got off the hook there. He kind of got off the hook. He saw an opening. He baited Perreira, got him to overextend, and then countered him twice. And that's all she wrote.
Here is where I'll throw it back at you, and I'll
Shoot.
tell you, Izzy was winning the first fight up until he got TKO'd. On the cards,
Yep.
round by round, he was absolutely destroying Perreira. He wobbled him. It was very back and forth, but I was giving it to Izzy if it went to the decision and survived that
For
round.
sure.
And now I think Izzy's taken a turn and said, well, look, maybe I don't need to put that much output. Maybe I don't need to be in his face and pressure him. Let him walk to me and drop his hands, which is what Perreira does.
He's a counter puncher at the end of the day before he's an out and out forward pushing striker.
Exactly. He's not a pressure boxer. He's more of a, you come to me and I'll deal
I'll
with
tap you up.
Yeah. And what we saw when Izzy went up against the cage and baited him in and put his guard up, I don't know if you realize, but if you go back and watch, Izzy never broke eye contact with Alex. He had his eye on him the whole time. He was watching him. He's waiting for Alex to load up on the left hook. Now I'm going to pop it up there for people to see. You can actually see as soon as Alex Perreira loaded up the left hook, Izzy hit him with a quick left hook himself, just a quick one to throw him off, and the overhand over the top. When you break that down, that whole sequence down, and you watch it, you realize why he's the Stylebender. You realize why they call him Stylebender. Like, that is some anime shit. Like, yeah, it was cold. The accuracy, the precision, it was cold. Like, quick left hook over the top, rocked him, cancelled out his left hook, and then when he came back, same punch to the top of the noggin and just put him to sleep. So when you break down the sequence, I think Adesanya drilled that. I think he went back and watched tape. I think he did his homework on him, and I think he really came out with a.
Sorry, I was going to add on to your point. When you speak about that, I was speaking to a mate of mine, and this was before Perreira fought Strickland. If you go back to the press conference, remember when Strickland was piping up, and then he turned around, it's like to Izzy, you wear French tips or whatever it is. And if you watch that press conference back, you'll hear Izzy actually say to him, don't worry about me, worry about that man. That man's a killer, and whatever you do, don't parry his jab.
Yeah.
That's something Izzy said to him, like, don't parry his jab. And then Strickland went again, he goes, don't parry the jab. Whatever you do, don't parry the jab. And that was more so coming from Izzy going, in kickboxing, I parried it, and I got
Left
pulled
hook.
flat.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to add on to
Yeah,
that.
and when you look at these two kickboxers, technically they are the best of the best.
Yeah.
They're the best of the best. And
I'm very curious as to what's next for Perreira. Obviously, it's still early, but I think
205.
I think you're right. I think 205 makes a lot of sense. Like, wouldn't you go for the strap there?
That's a very open strap.
Yeah.
That's a very like the champion there. You can't say he's.
Where do you think he falls in? Walking straight into it,
Rankings?
like not rankings, but like
Oh, who's he
obviously if
gonna
he
fight?
goes up, like he's not gonna fight for the title straight away because I feel like that division's a little bit sorted in that respect. You got Jiri coming back, Jamal, blah blah blah, right? So where does he go? Who does he go match up against? Who does he fight? How does he, I guess, move the pieces in that division to go in that direction?
So if he fights Ankalaev, his career's done. I don't think he ever comes back. That's the way I'm going to put it. If he fights Ankalaev, he's not coming back to the UFC ever again. He's just going to dust him then and there. If he fights Jan, I think he's got a good chance.
I would love to see a Jan Perreira fight.
Yeah.
I think as a fight fan, that is the most exciting. I think Jan hasn't been on. I just think the matchup makes sense. I think the styles make sense. The matchup makes sense. I think the storylines make sense. And I think in Pereira's sense, he is slightly older than Izzy. And I think because he has a more intense weight cut, like people don't put enough emphasis on the significance of a weight cut. Like we're talking about dehydrating your body, dehydrating your brain, dehydrating your liver, fucking up your blood system. Like these, at his age, you can't afford an extra weight cut than you have to do. So he has to be very strategic about his next couple fights. And I think for Perreira, his best bang for buck right now is go get the title as quickly as you can at 205 and then challenge Izzy for it. Because Izzy's wanted that championship status. He's done it before.
Very far-fetched, but oh my God, what a dream. What a dream.
That can only be 2 years away, what he said, but
a lot can happen in 2 years. Like 2 years ago, you had Usman was looking like he was never ever going to lose. Yeah, now he is, yeah. But dream scenario for me: Yuri versus Jamal. Yuri wins the title back, and then they give Perreira straight.
Are you ruling out Jamal that quickly?
Yeah, against Yuri?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Against
Interesting.
Stylistically, look, I think Jamal looked good against Glover, but that was old man Glover. Jamal's a great fighter. I think he's got a lot of heart and a lot of fight IQ.
He was flawless.
He was flawless, yeah. Fight IQ was up there, but against Yuri, against a fighter who's not predictable, who you don't know what's going to happen, he could hit you with a spinning elbow or a flying knee, and especially a guy that comes at you with his hands down like that. Like, have you seen how Yuri comes at you just hands down, just popping, just popping you, and he's still so good? Like, I think that's a scary proposition. So I'm ruling out Jamal for that fight.
Yeah.
Love him, great. Like, makes me happy to see that he became champion, but Yuri is something else.
Interesting. I think the real someone who's really been kind of overlooked from this last card is actually Christian Rodriguez.
Was that the guy that beat Ralph?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very impressive.
Bully.
Right?
I'm gonna call him a bully. He bullied Ralph.
Yes.
Welcome to the big leagues, boy.
Yes.
Yeah.
18 years old, superstar
That
on
was
the come up.
That was stupid that they put him onto a main card like so quickly. Second fight
but
in the
you know
UFC.
what? Everyone could jump on for the storyline.
Yeah.
Again, that's what
It
brings
was
back
compelling.
exactly
Yeah.
like
It was compelling.
Who doesn't want to see this kid just ascend to the top? But how many times have we seen this? This is not the worst thing to happen to Rosas. Like if we go back and look at someone like Max Holloway, because I think people forget how long Max Holloway has been in the division. But with that being said, how young Max wasn't too much older than
He was 19,
Raul
20.
when he started fighting in the UFC. And look at who Max Holloway lost to
during
those interim fights before he became the Max Holloway that we knew.
Was it
Yeah.
McGregor his last
Yeah,
loss?
he lost McGregor, lost to DP as well.
Yeah.
Like he was very rough around the edges, and he had a lot of learning to do. And I think the same thing can happen for Rosas, but I think it's just the hype train. Like they try to use his hype, try to bring him on. And if you want this, like, do you know what it would have done for Dana and what it would have done for Raul as well? I get where Dana's coming from, and like Lucas said, Dana's a businessman. Like he looks at it from a business perspective. Everyone wanted this 18-year-old kid to win, and I guess in hindsight, we all made our predictions, but we didn't have enough categorical evidence to actually say.
Didn't you predict him to win? He did, didn't he?
I bought in. I bought in. Dana,
It was
yeah.
so...
Dana,
That's what I mean.
Dana sold me a dream. Bro.
Well, that's what I mean.
When Dana White sells you a dream, you buy it.
Wait, he
You
fully
bu-
admitted. Can someone play the clip right now? If you're watching this, you should play the clip right now.
I'm really excited to see how this fight turns out. My prediction, I think Rosas gets the dub just from hype alone.
Because he full says in the video, he's just got the hype behind him.
I'm
I
getting
think he's
behind
going to win it.
Yeah. I'm 2 right. That's 2 out of 5. Yeah, it's stinkers. Look, one day I'm gonna get all 5, and you're not gonna hear the end of it.
That's true.
Yeah, you're not gonna hear the end of it.
Hey.
But yeah, no, Christian Rodriguez. Did he have Sergio Pettis in his corner?
Yes, I believe
Yeah,
so.
yeah, okay.
I believe so.
Yeah, that's also, but he's 24, 25 as well.
Yeah.
Like, that guy's exciting too.
He's young,
He's very young.
but yeah, he's young, but he's older in life as well. I feel like that plays a big factor.
yeah, but
because-
still same stage
What
of
do,
his
you,
career.
what do you mean by that? He's older in life.
Being like 24, 25, I think you know how to handle your... Look back to when you were 18, 19.
Yeah.
Maybe how you handled your emotions versus to someone a little bit older. Or you, 24, 25, handling your emotions. I know when I was 18, I was not calculated. I didn't think things out. I was just gun-ho, do things, don't worry about it. Because I'm young. I'm just like, this is when I'm first allowed to be free. And I think that emotional control or that emotional response is something that Raul will learn from in today's fight. Like, yes, if this had happened in a later stage in his fight, you could argue he'd learn the same thing. But I feel being so young and learning this lesson now will only do him a world of wonder like further down
I
the
think
track.
this is a case of Raul not having a very extensive amateur career. I think he was only like 2-0 as an amateur and then went straight into the pros. And I've always said that the best fighters have very long amateur careers. I think it's important to just constantly be in the ring and constantly be competing. And listen, I'm shitting on an 18-year-old that's fighting in the UFC that could probably choke me out in any way imaginable right now. So I want to keep that in context. But the way he looked up against other UFC fighters and up against Christian Rodriguez, it was very, very immature fighting. He was diving in head first for takedowns, wasn't landing anything significant, coming off an L step, very predictable. He wasn't, he wasn't mixing it in with hands or kicks or anything. He was just going straight in, and he got caught with a knee. How amazing would it be in Miami if he got knocked out by a flying knee
That knee
against
was
Christian
solid.
Rodriguez?
That knee was solid.
It was a
as well.
couple millimeters away from landing him on the chin. And
Yeah.
I don't think people gave that enough weight. Like, credit to him. He recovered well. That was a very testing moment. But yeah, by second round, Christian Rodriguez was just like, I've got this. I've got your back. I'm going to do whatever I want with you.
Yeah.
And it was almost like he didn't want to submit Raul.
No, I think he didn't want to. I was actually talking about this. I think he didn't want to gas himself out by going for a choke because he was
Right.
already quite gassed. So I think his safest bet was just hold the body triangle and just...
Yeah.
But he held it so well because did you see every time that Raul turned it?
Yeah, he'd
just
flip.
straight
Yeah,
away.
he'd
Nah.
flip the...
And credit to Raul, he was very tricky.
Yeah.
He was hard to like hold down. He would slip and roll in uncomfortable ways, and Christian just adjusted and made sure that he was either inside control, top control, or had a body triangle locked in the whole time.
That is the
a
beauty.
true professional.
That's the beauty of BJJ. I will
Yeah.
always love BJJ in the UFC.
Yeah.
Why are you laughing? You
Nah, I
missed
just
the
love
box.
that comment.
He loves BJJ.
Yeah, the
in
beauty of
UFC.
BJJ. All right, quick one before we wrap up, boys. The next UFC card is UFC 288. We'll have episode 3 ready for you after it's done. But I just want your predictions on 2 fights which have big impacts. We've got Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush. Winner potentially fighting Islam. And Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo.
I'm a big Dariush guy.
I'm a big Beneil guy, but activity is everything in the UFC.
I know.
And I just feel like he's let himself go a little bit too long without a fight.
I'm just, my heart wants Beneil to win. I think that's all it is. I want him to win because I just like who he is as a person.
Yeah.
I like how he fights as well. I like how he's kind of almost an afterthought. But yeah, I'm going Dariush.
Yeah.
Okay, I had to talk myself into that. There's no justification for it. I'm just going Dariush.
I'm going Oliveira because activity is everything, and I want Oliveira to have another pop at Islam, a proper pop at Islam.
That's a big motivator for him.
Yeah,
I like that, but I feel like Oliveira is kind of on a 2-fight loss streak right
No,
now.
one.
One?
What? How do you lose one fight and you're done? I'll deal with you off camera.
Who was his fight?
Well, he missed weight, remember?
He missed weight.
He
that's
missed
what it
weight.
Yeah, no, but that was
And then he
that was
didn't-
bullshit.
No, but I'm saying he didn't get the belt. That's
Yeah,
why it might
yeah.
seem like a loss
So-
because he missed weight.
But he beat Gaethje. He beat Poirier. He
Yeah, the record's there.
it was on
Yeah.
a 10 or 9 fight.
yeah,
win
he
streak
beat
before that.
Ferguson. Like he earned that title,
Yeah.
and he lost it to Islam. I think he deserves another pop at it.
Yeah, but here's the thing with the UFC, and this is why I'm not necessarily for Israel and Perreira going for a third straight off the bat. I think it doesn't really serve anyone to have the same guys fighting over and over again. I don't think it makes sense to, for example, right now, Whittaker, Adesanya again. It's just, it's not there.
I know, but
It's not there.
Whittaker's hard done by because the guy fought 3 times
Yeah.
before he went for the second,
And you
for the second fight.
and you feel like Oliveira's kind of hard done by as well because Islam, first of all, I know Sui's going to get angry at me for saying this, but he didn't deserve that title shot. He didn't earn it the way Oliveira earned it or the way anyone else earned
But that's not.
that
That's a
title
lot
shot.
of MMA. Sometimes
That's what
it's
I'm-
not fair.
Yeah, he'd want that title shot again. And if he beats Dariush, who's going to say no?
No, I think he beats Dariush and he has to do it one more time.
One more
think so.
time, like beat someone else?
Yeah.
They
Well,
are talking about Gaethje
I was
and,
gonna
and
say,
Poirier
yeah.
running it back.
Yeah.
So- but knowing Islam, he needs to get back in the ring. So I think he needs to fight someone as soon as possible.
But here's the thing. Even on my side, I reckon you should be having 2 fights in that division. So if Poirier and Gaethje run it, I feel like they should.
And what a fight that is.
that would be a good fight.
Poirier Gaethje. Ooh, yeah. Oh, bro.
Every knockout fan out there is just
Do you want a bloodbath?
please make it.
Do you get off to Broken Bones?
We do.
Is your name Jeffrey Dahmer? This is a fight for you.
We need Luca doing our promos.
Hard.
Please make it 5 rounds. Dana White, if you're listening, 5 rounds for that fight, please.
Put it on a fight night and have them be the main event because
Yes.
you'll make it 5 rounds.
Going back now to Aljamain and Cejudo.
Look, I'm going Aljo purely because he's hated by the MMA community.
I love him.
and I think it's just fun to see him win and everyone get pissed off at
Yeah.
it.
I'm one of those.
Yeah.
He's the most hated champion ever. And
Yeah.
it is what it is.
I find him to be a very good fighter and actually a good dude too. So
Yeah.
I like him.
And Cejudo, look, full credit to him, champ. He's done it all in the UFC, but he hasn't fought in how long?
I think the bank balance is running low as well. I think that's
Yeah,
what I'm
retired way too young.
Yeah.
Triple C.
seeing. Who you got?
Cejudo, man.
Cejudo?
But that man's fight IQ
Okay.
is on like,
Yeah.
and with the wrestling background as well, I feel like that's a great leveler. And then it goes to be who's better on the feet.
So-
And I just look at Cejudo's two belts he fought and the different types of fights he had to have as a champion. I feel like it's hard to look past him.
Yeah.
That's true. So my scenario that I've got in my head is I think Cejudo wins. Aljo moves up to featherweight, and then Marab just runs through Cejudo like he's a piece of trash.
Well, Marab won't fight because
No, when Aljo moves up, then Cejudo's champion,
Yeah.
and then Marab just goes.
so I
and takes
mean,
the-
no,
Yeah.
so stupid how he doesn't want to fight Aljo.
Man, that's his boy. If me and Sui were together in the division, I'd never fight him.
I respect that.
Yeah, I'd never fight him. That's
I
brotherhood.
know. For me, I'm a competitive person. Like I love my boys,
Yeah,
but
he's
at the end of the
dog.
but at the end of the day, we know what we got into.
Yeah.
Like it's not.
I'm with you on that, man. I think if you trained your whole life and if you've worked towards this one goal for the rest of your
Exactly.
life, dude, the amount of
I love you.
pay-per-views, the amount of fucking pay-per-views you would do. Come on.
It's like
Come
Eddie,
on,
it's like,
baby.
It's like Eddie Guerrero's Chavo Guerrero level. Thank you so much for tuning in to AJB'S UFC Show episode 2. It's been my good friend Luca.
Thanks, Luca.
That's been my good friend
Yeah,
TK. Luca, we'll be seeing you again here soon.
I'm sure we will.
And that's been Sui. Sui, come here and say bye to everyone.
Fraud.
Hey, someone has to fight Camzat, bro. I'm sick of this shit.
Make sure you subscribe, yeah?